Welcome, dear adventurers, to Quill and Tale, where short stories meet big adventure. For our new adventurers, welcome. I'm Quill, your humble storyteller, and I'm thrilled that you've decided to embark on this journey here with us. Each week, we open up the Book of Tales to discover a fantastical world filled with wizards and warriors and dragons and pirates, knights and mysterious secrets. There'll be side quests and unexpected twists and turns, but most importantly, there'll be a chance to uncover the hidden truths woven into these tales. So, without further ado, today's story is called Starting Again. Oh, but before we begin, a quest. Each week, we'll have a side quest so that you can get more XP as we venture forth together. Today's side quest is: who did Martin lose to in his duel? Good luck, brave souls.
Starting again. Martin realized he had lost when he felt his opponent's grip close around his hand, hoisting him to his feet. The world around him blurred, his mind hovering somewhere above his own body, watching as he exchanged hollow niceties with Galen. He barely registered the words spilling from his own slack mouth. His face burned, a prickling heat creeping up his neck, and the back of his eyes stung, betraying the storm of emotion threatening to break loose. Shame coiled in his chest like a tightened spring. As the training grounds emptied, Martin remained rooted to the spot, his gaze locked onto the patch of dirt where his dream had just crumbled. How many hours had he spent training? How many times had he imagined his triumph? And now, it was gone, wrenched away as easily as Galen had torn the sword from his grip.
It hurts, I know. Do you want to understand why?
The voice cut through his haze like a blade through fog. Martin lifted his head to find Sir Fontaine standing before him, the evening sun casting long shadows across the compound. The knight's face was calm, his eyes knowing. The weight of Fontaine's attention only deepened Martin's humiliation, and he clenched his jaw, shaking his head.
You fought well. You can always try again next season,
Fontaine said, his voice steady.
Dry your eyes, lad. Loss is never easy, but it is not the end.
Martin took a sharp breath in, but when he opened his mouth to respond, words failed him. Instead, the dam broke. His shoulders trembled and hot tears streamed down his face. He had held it in as long as he could, but now the flood came, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. I wanted it more than anything, he choked out between sobs. I'll never be a knight. Sir Fontaine sighed, his expression unreadable.
That's because long ago, our ancestors saw loss as the end. If something was losing blood, it was dying, and that instinct lingers in us still. This feeling that failure is final.
Martin sniffed, rubbing furiously at his face with the back of his hand. Feels like the end. Fontaine crouched beside him.
This is but a small setback that will only make you stronger.
Martin swallowed hard, his breath still uneven. So, what? It still happened. I still failed. Fontaine tilted his head.
Sometimes we prune a tree so that it can grow larger. Sometimes we take a step back before we can run forward. Losing and starting again, that's the way of life.
Martin gritted his teeth. I don't want to start over again next season. I came so far. I trained harder than anyone. It was all I ever wanted.
Ah, pride. That's where it hurts. But tell me, are you above starting again? Some of the greatest figures in history have failed and begun anew.
Fontaine held up a finger.
Sir Axeman, the great war hero, lost his entire keep in the Battle of Shorehaven. He built another. Lady Hart, who saved those children from the flood, lost everything first. Your neighbors, the Adlingtons, lost more than you'll ever know, and they still forge on. Some lose things they never even knew they had, and yet they start again.
Fontaine's gaze hardened as he placed a heavy hand on Martin's shoulder.
Sir Fontaine didn't pass the knight's program on the first try either.
Martin blinked, stunned. You lost?
Sure did.
Fontaine smirked.
Even worse than you, lad. Practically handed my opponent the victory. I might as well have stabbed myself with my own practice sword.
Martin swallowed. I trained so hard for this, Sir Fontaine. I don't know if I have it in me to do it all over again. Fontaine straightened, looking down at him with measured patience.
That's for you to decide. But if you want it, really want it, I'll see you back here tomorrow at first light.
With that, the knight turned and strode off, leaving Martin alone with his thoughts as the last light of day faded behind the compound walls. The next morning, as the sun's first rays stretched over the horizon, the crisp sound of wood clashing against wood echoed through the practice grounds. Sir Fontaine stepped onto the field, his sharp eyes scanning the yard until they landed on a familiar figure. Martin stood in the corner, his stance rigid, his grip tight around the wooden training sword as he struck at the practice dummy with fierce determination. His movements were unrefined, but his strikes were relentless. The chains on the dummy rattled, the air thick with the scent of churned dirt and sweat.
Your stance is too narrow and square, lad. That's how Galen tackled you yesterday.
Martin froze, his jaw tightening. Shame flickered across his face again, but this time he swallowed it down. With a slow exhale, he adjusted his feet, widening his stance just enough for Fontaine to nod in approval. Then he resumed his attack, his strikes more measured, more precise. He still hated the idea of starting over, of rebuilding what had taken him so long to craft. But as he swung his sword again and again, his breath heavy in his chest, he realized something. Beyond failure lay the rest of his life. And if he never started again, he would never start anything at all.
That was a little story about how, even though it may not seem like it at the time, when we lose or fail at something, we grow so much stronger from it than when we win. Starting again may seem like the toughest thing to do in the world, especially when we've worked so hard to get somewhere. But the more we start over, the better we get at whatever it is we're chasing in life. So don't give up. Learn to love the process. Thank you truly for joining us on this adventure. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe and share. It would mean the world to us. And if you have any thoughts or theories or just want to say hi, drop a comment below or check the description on ways to reach out. Next week, we'll meet Quinn, a quick-witted adventurer whose journey is waylaid by a monstrous troll. Well, until then, dear adventurers, keep on reading.